Welcome to MTG Friends. Chances are you are on this channel because you want to see a Commander deck tech, and that's exactly what you're going to get. So I was doing pre-release for Commander Legends 2, and my promo card ended up being this bad boy. Ooh, let's see if I can actually navigate. Lae'zel Vlaakith's Champion, and within my draft had Noble, Heritage, there we go. And I just thought, wow, what a cool little combo. I liked it so much. I had so much fun with it. I decided to do a deck tech on it. So that's what we're going to do. Lae'zel Vlaakith's Champion. And these are the cards. Look at that. Look at that promo card. Wow, that looks super fuzzy. There's that any better? Anyways. So yeah, so I decided to put deck together because I want to play it. And funny enough, when I was looking around, not that this matters for anything I build, it doesn't look like anybody's built this thing. It's not an expensive card. This is not a budget channel, as you guys already know. Anyways, I am really premising the crap out of this. Let's jump in. We got the packages. We're going to be dealing with very basic land package here. A good amount of removal. Some ones you're expecting, some that aren't in here that you maybe were expecting. You got to have a combo in here when we're doing mono white. We got one with Sun Crown. This is not a life gain deck. Speaking with my hands. There's going to be some ones in here that you don't typically see me play. All right, we got some protection piece, a few shenanigan pieces, a little bit of control, but this is by no means a stacks build. A good amount of ramp and some counters, counters, and a few tutors to go fetch us up a few nice things. And then the Voltron package. This isn't a pure Voltron build, so it's got a little bit of everything in here, and some recursion out of the graveyard, as well as a little bit of draw. And as you know, draw is a weakness in white. There is one card in particular that I have began running in white mono builds that I think is going to surprise you, and you're going to really like my explanation. And if you don't like my explanation, well, that's okay too. All right, what the hell does this thing do? If you would put one or more counters on a creature or planeswalker you control or on yourself, put that many +1 of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. Okay, you got it? And then the background. So background new to Commander Legends 2. I'll just go through this real briefly. Commander creatures you own have, when this creature enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 1/1 counters on a creature they control. Most likely we're putting that on our commander. Counter on a creature they control. For each opponent who does, you gain protection from that player until your next turn. The upside to this far outweighs the downside of them potentially putting 2 1/1 counters. Plus, we'll get an additional one because of our commander. Let's go back to the commander real quick. Just remember, it has this choose a background. Out of all the backgrounds that came out of Commander Legends 2, this one is definitely the most spicy in white. All rice-a-roni. So let's go into this. All right, the combo really doesn't need much explanation. In fact, we're not even going to show the cards. Heliod Sun Crown with Walking Ballista. I'm sure you already know. It's a combo. You put it out Heliod, or put out Walking Ballista as long as both are on the playfield, and you have 2 available mana sources, including 1 white. You go infinite as long as it doesn't get interrupted by an opponent, and then you can whack them for 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, and it just feeds on itself. Moving on from that combo. All right, control. We got a little bit of control, but nothing stacksy, nothing hardcore stacksy. Archon of Emeria, because we want to be getting something out on our commander and just smacking our opponent. We got this in here. It is probably a swappable card if there's another white creature you'd rather have in here instead. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Non-basic lands your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped. Most likely you're dealing with a lot of non-basic lands from your opponent. But maybe not. Maybe they're running mono green elves or something. Blind Obedience. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Alright, so maybe a little annoying. Maybe a little. Ghostly Prison, they got to pay 2 to attack you. Grand Abolisher. During your upkeep, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Notice the abilities of artifacts, which means they're mana rocks as well. Now, I have actually started running Mana Tithe a little more than I used to because I deal with a lot of blue spell opponents that they're tapped out and then suddenly they play Force of Negation or some other thing. So if your playgroup tends to have the trickery of, oh, I only have one land up, and you're noticing that your opponents keep leaving either one land open or they're tapped with their blue, and you know that they're up to that shenanigans. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. This one will really help you in a pinch, especially if they're pushing to win the game. Mana Tithe. Yes, technically you could totally swap this out, but I am starting to run this in mono white decks. It is really helpful. If you want to know more about my thoughts on that, just put it in the comments. I answer all comments that are constructive questions. All right, Rydane, God of the Worthy, Flying Vigilance, snow lands your opponent control into the battlefield tapped, which is probably not going to be a factor. Non-creature spells your opponent casts with converted mana cost 4 or greater, cost 2 more to cast. And then, of course, the flip side is the artifact that costs you 4 that requires them to pay 1 each time they target a creature of yours. And I believe you get 1 less damage and all that kind of shenanigans. You know what? Even though I know what the heck this thing does, for the channel, we'll just bring it up. Yeah, whenever another permanent you control becomes the target of a spell, they got to pay 1. And a source of damage does 1 less. Permanents you control prevent 1 damage. Yeah. Blur, 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 blur. All right, bring that back up. Bring it back up. We have a lot more Planeswalkers in this than I usually ever play because they play into the counters category. So remember, our commander, this one, gives you an additional. It's doubling seasoned in white. So Ajani Steadfast for 4. There's a couple Ajanis I didn't include because the 6-drop one. These ones just felt more efficient. Wow, am I explaining this? Yes, I am. All right, Johnny Steadfast for 4. Its uptick is until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +1 and gains first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. That's fine. We mainly have it for its downtick. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. You might have more than 1 planeswalker out. Maybe. And its ultimate, you get an emblem with if a source would deal damage to you or a planeswalker you control, prevent all but 1 of that damage. You ultimate that thing, then more power to you, folks. More power to you. Johnny, Adversary of Tyrants, 4-drop as well. A lot easier to drop a 4-drop than a 6. Oh, what's happening? Everything's turning black. All right, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. That's the 1 uptick. Man, my nose itches. And its downtick, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. That could be a factor. And its ultimate at the beginning of your end step, create 3 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. I mean, you never know when you want those ultimates, and you can ultimate them. Most likely you can't. Ajani, Caller of the Pride. Oh, is this an Ajani build? No, they just are the ones that have the +1 counter shenanigans. A 3-drop, which is very efficient. +1, put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Yes! And it's downtick of 3. Target creature gains flying and double strike until end of turn. I mean, giving your giant commander double strike and flying might be very bueno, depending on the board state. And its ultimate, put X 2/2 white cat creature tokens onto the battlefield where X is your life total. That is bananas and probably won't be happening. Johnny, Inspiring Leader. It's 6-drop. Oh, I guess I did leave the 6-drop in here. You gain 2 life. Put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 target creature, most likely your commander. But this isn't like pure Voltron where we like lack other creatures. There's plenty of creatures in here that we can Voltron up as well, or just keep our opponents off kilter. -3, exile target creature. Its controller gains 2 life, and its ultimate 10. I doubt that's going to happen, but maybe. Creatures your control gain flying and double strike until end of turn. That is a super weak ultimate for 10. I mean, really? It's a 6-drop with a 10 that does that. Very underwhelming. But the +2 is pretty great. Cathar's Crusade. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Enters, not casts. This card's awesome. Macaeus the Lunarch. X white. Macaeus Lunarch enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. Tap, put a 1/1 counter on it. Remove a 1/1 counter from Macaeus, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. I mean, dude, this one is really, really powerful, and it's a cheap card to get because they have printed this thing so many damn times. So many times. Oh, I guess not that many times. Huh. Anyways, I digress. Wandering Empire. I just like this card, and it's fun. And totally swappable card, by the way, in this build. And we have the maybe board on Architect here, so you can look at some of the other ones that you could totally easily swap in if you so desire. It's got Flash, which is so great. Its +1 is put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Gains first strike. Down tick, create a 2/2. Whatever. And in a pinch, you can drop this thing, flash it in, and exile target tapped creature and gain 2 life. All right, this is a nice little combo dealy with Vampire, not Wandering Vampire. What is it? We'll find it. We'll find it in a second. Court of Grace for 4. When it enters battlefield, you are the Monarch. At the beginning of upkeep, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If you're the Monarch, create a 4/4 white angel instead. Monarch means you can draw a card at the end of your turn if you're still the Monarch. And then that one goes in nicely with Welcoming Vampire. Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. We do have a fair amount of 2 power or less creatures in this build, which is why Welcoming Vampire is welcomed into this deck. All right, Esper Sentinel. This is fast becoming, if not already, a staple in mono white or other builds with white. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. That is great. Plus, we're making things bigger in this build, so that could end up being a fairly large creature where they got to really consider if they want to pay for it. Mungar the Diplomat for 4. This goes against the Myria, but most likely Mungar and Myria aren't going to be out at the same time. Like I said, you could swap out a Myria. Mungar the Diplomat. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or Planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Also goes against Ghostly Prison, but hey, whatever. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell, draw a card. Drawing is good in white. First jerseys. All right, let's talk about this card a little bit. You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. 4/3. So white already struggles with draw. This is, in my opinion, a great card, and I'm starting to include it in white builds because it lets you do politics on the battlefield. Because you can use this as a bargaining chip for your opponents. You can say, hey, if I let you draw 3 cards, XYZ. You won't do this. You'll do that. You'll not attack me for 3 turns, for 2 turns, for whatever. So this really adds some spice, and it gets you 3 more cards. So this is a fun card that does do what you need. I mean, if you're 1v1, then this one doesn't really help you much, but I don't usually play 1v1. But if you do, keep it in there. Why not? Whatevs. All right, Welcoming Vampire we've already talked about. All right, land. We have mostly basic lands in here, except for these few. Iganjo? You know what? I've never even bothered to try to say that. Seat of the Empire. It's got Channel 3, which can't be countered because channeling can't be countered. Discard. I wonder if it could be countered for an ability. Maybe. But like straight up countering, that can't be countered. It deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. I forget that legendary creature you control thing so many times. Myria, the Sky Ruin, should be in every mono white deck. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Comes in tapped at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. and you tap for white as well. Core Haven could be totally swapped out if you don't have it or if you're not interested in this mechanic. 4/2, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by target attacking creature this turn. Of course, you have to target them, so if they have hexproof, this will totally suck for you because you can't target it, but otherwise, great card. Planes, mostly planes. If there's utility cards in here, homeward bound, whatever, that you want to put in here, just remove some of the planes. There you have it. Sajiri Shelter, I'm starting to include this one as well. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. This is really great for spot removal and if you need a land in your opening hand. All right, we got a few protection pieces. Protection. Mostly protection for spot removal, but there's a few others here. All right, Chroma's Will for 4. Choose one. If you control a commander, you get to do both. Creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, double strike until end of turn. Nice. Creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. That's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. All colors. That is bananaramas. All right, Blacksmith Skill. This is one you don't typically see in builds I show you. Target permanent gains hexproof and indestructible end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gets 2/2 until end of turn. This is one they are not going to be expecting. Giving indestructible, they Wrath of God, they do something that just wipes the board, minus like a farewell exile mechanic, that kind of thing. We can give them indestructible and make it so that they can't target it. This is a great one drop. Leave that one white open. They're thinking you're going to path to exile somebody or something, but no, I'm not targeting your creature. I'm targeting my creature, y'all. That's right. Bring it on to the break of dawn. All right, 8.5 Tails. I really like this mono white card, and I'm gonna start. You're gonna see this popping up in my builds. You're just gonna see it. Other people maybe not, but you're gonna see it. 8.5 Tails for 2. You can pay 2. Target permanent you control gains protection from white until end of turn. And then for 3 total, target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. So you can protect a permanent you control and then make whatever spell they're making happen turn into a white spell. Hell yeah. What? Target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn. Booyah. Suck it to ya. I like it. Flawless Maneuver. Commander, costs nothing. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. I need to rephrase that. If your commander's out, this costs nothing. There you go. All right, this one, typically your opponent isn't going to be expecting this either. Leave that 3 up. For Flash, it's got Vigilance, and then when it comes to the battlefield, you can take all your creatures, really, and phase them out until your next turn. So somebody does a Farewell, somebody does a Wrath of God, somebody does a Damnation, somebody wipes the flipping board, and you go, no, Blasphemous Axe isn't going to work for me, y'all. And then you just drop this bad boy, phase out all your creatures, and then they come in. I mean, Guardian of Faith would then die, but that's okay. We're okay with that. Okay with that, right? Hyena Umbra for your commander, most likely. The Totem Armor is why we got this in here. Enchanted creature gets +1 and has First Strike. First Strike ain't bad either for a 1-drop. Totem Armor, if the enchanted creature would be destroyed, instead remove all damage from it and destroy this aura. Boom, shalaka-laka. We got it going on. So all that gets removed is Hyena Umbra. Boom. In the room, other runes, more protection. Tap it. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice till end of turn. End of turn. Yes. Yes, indeed. All right, Selfless Spirit. Few in here you're not used to seeing in my decks. Or in the MTG Friends decks. For 2, it's got flying. Sacrifice it. Creatures you control gain indestructible in the end of turn. Fairies Protection. I mean, you're going to see this in almost all white builds I do and many others. The ultimate protection, life total can't change. You have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. phase out. Ramp. We got a few ramp pieces here. Not too many, but some. All right. Archaeomancer's map. I've been seeing this pop up in a lot of builds. I like it enough where it's being included in some of the builds we're doing now. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 basic planes cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Very white-centric, of course. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So, ramping with green by just having Archaeomancer's map out. Yes. I mean, it doesn't help with mana dorks, I suppose, but Danitha Capassion Paragon, say that 5 times incorrectly like I just did. First strike, vigilance, lifelink, aura, and equipment spells you cast cost 1 less. Marble Diamond comes in tapped, the lesser of the two, or Marble Diamond and then Pearl Medallion. White spells cost 1 less to cast. Yes. Smothering Tithe. Get this in early and you'll aggravate the whole board state. Whenever opponent draws a card, they have to pay 2 or you get a treasure token. Sword of Animist. Woo! Equipped creature gets +1 whenever it attacks. You can search your library for a basic land, which in this instance is going to be a plains. It comes in tapped. Ugin. This is to help us with our equipments. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 color spirit. The spirit has overwhelmed me. Creature token. When this token leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand. And for a 3, destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. So it's got versatility. Versatility, folks. But we mainly have it in here for that color spell stuff. But you can do the other shenanigans for sure. Z's. Gift of Immortality for 3. Enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. Connor in our play group was playing this on one of his white builds, and he was playing it wrong. Creature would die, and then he would immediately bring it back with Gift of Immortality. Make sure if you're playing against an opponent, they're not doing this card incorrectly. So, there you have it, folks. Shout out to Connor. Karmic Guide. Recursion. Oh, so was the last one. Karmic Guide for 5. Flying Protection for black. Okay, whatever. It's got Echo 5 at the beginning of your upkeep. If this came under your control since the beginning of your last episode, sacrifice unless you pay the 5. So you got to pay 5 again. Whenever Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yes. Recursion in white is great. Luminous Broodmoth. Oh, man. I'll bet you forgot about this card. It's a 4-drop. It's out of Ikoria. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. Most of our creatures do not have flying in this build, so this is bueno. I like this card. This card's fun. Mantle of the Ancients. Enchant creature you control. Whenever Mantle of the Ancients enters the battlefield, return any number of target aura and or equipment cards, which we have plenty in this build. Look at my hands waving. Cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to enchanted creature. Hopefully our commander, but it doesn't have to be. Enchanted creature gets 1/1 for each aura and equipment attached to it. Savin's Reclamation, a staple in white. For 3, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Love that it goes to the battlefield. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy this spell and may choose a new target for copy. So you can do 2. And it's got flashback 5, which isn't terrible. 5 is fine to be able to play the spell again. Sun Titan for 6. Another pretty big staple in white, typically. Vigilance. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you can grab a permanent, not necessarily a creature, with value 3 or less, put it on the battlefield. Darksteel, nice removal, especially against somebody's commander. Their commander becomes a 0/1 insect that's indestructible. Pretty great. Farewell. This is just a great white spell. Choose 1 or more. Exile artifacts, creatures, enchantments, graveyards. I mean, you get it. You exile whatever helps you the most. Generous gift, destroy permanent, give him a 3/3 Elefante. Elefante. Path to exile, spot removal. You know what's up. You know what's up. Remorseful Cleric. Sacrifice Remorseful Cleric, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. So if you need some graveyard hate, this is it. And it's in white. It's in white. Settle the Wreckage. One of the dudes from our play group and our group loves this card, especially in his Feathers deck. Settle the Wreckage for 4. I like this card too. Exile all attacking creatures target player controls, which is usually a giant board state. That player may search his or her library for those many basic land cards, put those cards on the battlefield tab, then shuffle his or her library. So most likely you're playing this to keep yourself from dying and beating them with the crackback. Beating them down, bitches. That's right. Sword to Plowshare, more spot removal, exile target creature. Alright, we got a little bit of shenanigans. You know what? Literally just put Ancient Gold Dragon because I cracked this in one of my Commander Legends 2 drafts. So I guess I technically didn't crack it in a pack or something. I guess I did because it was a draft pack. Anyways, wow. 7-drop. Whenever Ancient Gold Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. You create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the result. It's just an awesome dragon in white. You can absolutely 100% swap this dragon out. But I'm putting it in here because I have it and I thought it was funny and I thought it'd be fun to just put it in here for no particular reason. You can easily swap that card out for another creature of your desires. Ardent Intrepid Archaeologist for 3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory in this build, right? Right. Armored Skyhunter, also very self-explanatory in this kind of a build. When it attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put an aura equipment card from among them onto the battlefield, and then you can attach it to a creature you control. Put the rest on the bottom, blah, 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 blah. Alright, Shenanigans, Draneth. I just typically put Draneth in every mono white build because it's such a janky ass card. Your opponent can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hand, which, as you know if you've seen our other episodes, means their commander as well. That is a hateful card. That is a hateful card. But you know what? So are blue players, so whatever. Blue. I play blue once in a while. Whatever. Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, just a super powerful card in white. So I put it in because I have it and I like it. I have the Praetor's version, so you got to remember what the hell the thing says because it's all in like Phyrexian language. It's ridiculous. Do I have it? Oh, no, I don't have it within arm's reach. Vigilance, other creatures you control get +2. Creatures your opponent control get -2. In terms of the synergies of this build, this card is just a janky card. You could totally get rid of it. But it's a creature, and it's awesome, and I like it. So, you know what? I'm building this just as much for me as for you. So, that's why I put Elish Norn in here. You can swap it out. Totally. You can totally swap it out. More shenanigans. Sigarda's Aid for 1. Only costs 1, which is really incredible. You can cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. Colossus Hammer with flash. That would be hilarious. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to a target creature you control. Colossus Hammer. We'll get to that in a moment. Enlightened Tutor. I mean, yeah, Tutor in white. Go fetch up us an artifact or enchantment, which in essence means an equipment or an enchantment. Aura. Open the Armory. Search your library for an aura or equipment card. Reveal it. Put it in your hand. Shuffle. Steel Shaper Gift. You can easily swap this out because it is a more expensive card. We already have some tutoring going on in here and fetching equipments and auras. But search your library for an equipment card. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. Shuffle your library. Costs 1, which is probably why it costs like $20-some. Colossus Hammer! Hammer time! Hammer time! Equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. Interesting. That's an interesting last part of that, loses flying. Anyways, that goes well with the Moth because loses flying, swing for it. Even if it dies, then it comes back with flying counter on it. That's funny. Again, we don't have that many flyers. Anyways, equipped creature gets +10/+1 and loses flying. Equip 8. So usually you can tease this out for 1, attach it, and then suddenly you have a +10/+10. That's pretty redonky donk. All right, Fleet Feather Sandals, completely contradicting what we got going on with the Moth. But you know what? The Moth is just one creature. Fleet Feather Sandals for 2. Equipped creature has flying and haste. The haste part is why we really like this card. So for 2 and then another 2, we can attach this and give it haste and flying. I'll take it any day of the week. It is a super cheap card. And you probably forgot this card even exists. I don't know. How many times has this been printed? Oh, 1 time? Okay. Yeah. Luxier. And by the way, you can swap this Fleet Feather Sandals for another equipment or like a sword that you think is way more powerful. I just really like this because of the haste and the flying part. All right, Luxier Giada's Gift. This is specifically because of what commander we're running. Equipped creature gets +1 for each counter on it, which is gonna have counters. Equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker. Equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. So hilariously, you could equip this to one of your Johnnies and start swinging at them with it. I mean, that is super duper awesome. Robe of Stars. Man, I need to pick up like a full set of this because this card is amazing. Amazing. And it's still relatively cheap. Maybe they'll reprint this. I don't know. I think it's only been printed once. Once? Yeah. Equipped creature gets +0/+3, which, meh, whatever. But for 2, equipped creature phases out. Hell yes. Yes. Protectione. Hell's bells, yes. Serious protection. So, protects against exiling, protects against mass removal. I mean, this thing is fabulous. Spot removal. Man, this thing is an irritating card when you're playing against it. Usually, if you're got this on the board, you have 2 of your opponents tag teaming to try to get rid of it. Swiftfoot Boots. We all know what Swiftfoot Boots does, right? Right. Sword of Hours. Totally swappable card. Whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Synergizes perfectly with our commander. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, roll a d12. If the result is greater than the damage, blah, blah, blah. Double the number of 1/1 counters on that creature. You know what? I should probably actually read this so you know what the hell is going on. If the result is greater than the damage dealt, or the result is 12. Double the number of 1/1 counters, which most likely is going to be happening, especially with counters happening. Sword had to have at least 1 sword, and this is the one to have it because it's got proliferate. And it's got proc from white and from blue, so be careful about how you play Sword of Truth and Justice. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, y'all. Sword of Vengeance. Equipped creature gets +2 and has first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. Mainly for the trample and the haste. All right, Johnny's influence is the maybe board. So we are done, folks. We are dunzos. Dunzos. Yeah. So, Lazelle, I think you're going to have a great amount of fun with this build. It's, for the most part, not going to break the bank. It by no means is a budgetary build. I don't do those. We don't do those. We don't really care. But there's some budgetary swap-ins and blah-de-de-blah. I'm saying blah-de-de-blah a lot. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative. I hope it sparks something fun and cool to go do. And as always, you know, if you don't have all the cards, I am one of those people that proxy that bad boy. I mean, that always varies on your play groups and whatever, and I typically have all the cards, but you know what? Sometimes you don't. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Check out the other episodes, and thanks for supporting the channel. Labor of love, this channel. All right, peace.